How do you advise the millions of people who are social media users active every day, some for hours a day, to cut through the noise? People that are looking for answers, for guidance, for coaching, they want to maybe build a business, they turn to social media, they see these gurus selling their course, right? What advice would you give for people to identify those who are real versus those who are not?
It's a tough question. I think one of the most powerful gifts and skill sets that people can develop and have in life is discernment and judgment.
Mhm.
And for me, discernment and judgment has largely been built around understanding what authenticity looks like. In this wild world of the internet that we have out there, if something is causing you anxiety and stress and is really challenging you in those areas, there's probably a good chance that the noise doesn't come with a lot of value.
Mm.
And doesn't mean you can't be uncomfortable and have to stretch, but for me, the number one filter is that I've had the privilege of working around just the greatest people in the world. I've had the most amazing staff members. I've had the most amazing business partners, and I've had so many people that I've learned from, and people that I'm authentically learning from, and really able to retain and hold on to that information. Are not people that are screaming and yelling at me and are taking kind of that, I would say, what to me I determine as bravado, that
Mm.
bravado approach. They're people that are thoughtful, that are calculated, that are easy to follow. I've had the chance to have some of the most successful business partners in the world. I mean, just like the biggest. And I will tell you, there's a common thread between all of them is that they don't try to overwhelm you with a bunch of noise and hype and propaganda and expanded vocabulary. They're relatively pretty simple people. You started out this conversation with, that I'm somewhat unknown. Well, I will tell you, I've been trained by some of the most successful, um, financially successful entrepreneurs on this earth, and they are largely unknown. We
Totally.
we know who a few of them are, but
Yeah.
you don't know a whole lot about them, and
Yeah.
that's intentional. So. I think a way to really get through the noise is if you can detect authenticity, and if you can't detect authenticity, then it's probably time to move on because a disingenuous, not authentic person that's just throwing everything at you
Hmm.
is probably not going to be a guide. They're going to be a guru. And I can tell you that I love guides. Guides teach you, they're thoughtful, they're tactical, they're compassionate, they're empathetic, they're working with you. They're not selling from fear. So
Mm.
that would be another descriptive
Yeah.
is if someone is trying to convince you to do something based on fear. I don't want someone to tell me that I need to get in shape and lose weight because I'm going to die. That's not a good strategy for me.
Mm.
But if they say, hey, you're going to feel better, you're going to be a better friend, you're going to be a better husband, you're going to be a better dad, your life's going to have more joy. I am all for that.
Yeah.
But if you want to scare the hell out of me, that just usually doesn't move me to action. Everyone's different, but that's been really critical for me throughout my career. As a matter of fact, there's probably a lot of people I have not learned from because I haven't given them the time of the day
Yeah.
and listening to them
Yeah.
because I can tell they lead with fear.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of the people that are on the internet that are talking about, these big, crazy, audacious things are really telling you that, you're a loser and they're successful. And if you will grind and hustle, that someday you could be successful. But if you notice, they always stop short of giving you the perspective that you could be as successful as they are. And I think part of that is because most of them aren't successful,
Yeah.
right? Anybody can go rent an airplane and stand on top of it and get a picture. It is not hard to do. You can do it legally, you can actually do it illegally as well, right? So,
I think your point about some of the best entrepreneurs in the world, specifically ones that have mentored you, and some of my closest friends that I would consider the greatest entrepreneurs that I know, are very much not public, very unknown to the masses. But if you know them and you're in those circles, right, you know, like these are big dogs, these are big
yeah,
players.
I see so many people that have artificial
Well,
wealth
Yep.
fake wealth, and they just flaunt it. And you know, several of my business partners that are multi-billionaires. And when I say multi-billionaires, I don't mean like 2 or 3 billion. I mean 10 or 15. You'll never see them on the Forbes list. Would you believe that there's extraordinary, amazing, entrepreneurial, multi-billionaires that are nowhere to be found on that Forbes list?
Yeah, for sure.
They're not on it.
Yeah.
And they don't want to be on it. By the
Yeah.
way, do you know how you get on that list?
Nominations,
You get on that list.
self nominations.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to get on the list, but you can
Yeah.
stay off the list as well.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, you know, as a young 24, 25, 30-year-old, you know, I probably like secretly, I wanted to be on that list.
Yeah.
I wanted to go there. Today, you know, I think that rich is loud and wealth is quiet. Learning early on the power
Yeah.
of not getting rich and good looking, as simple as it may sound, was transformative for me. And to this day, I don't ever want anybody to think that I believe, nor do I want to carry myself in a way that I'm any better or any different. And we sure to hell know that I'm not good looking. So I don't want to broadcast that image or that
Yeah.
persona because I don't think it's becoming. And I don't like that when people, I don't, you know, it's the golden rule. I really don't like that when people do that around me. And for 20 years of building my businesses, even after those businesses were highly successful, one of the things I always wanted was a fancy car. I wanted a cool car. I wanted a fast car. I wanted a Ferrari. Maybe before that, a Corvette or a McLaren. Or I had these cars. I love cars, and I wanted a really cool car. And I remember, you know, during those years being frustrated at time that I drove a Nissan Maxima or a Toyota Camry for the better part of 15 to 20 years building a business. Early on, I was lucky to have any car because building a business didn't provide a lot of, you know, revenue early on. It was just a big process and a fight. But as I started having some success, I wanted a cool car. And it was really tough for me, even during those years, to think about not driving that car out in public and not parking it out front in the valet line and
Mm.
not dare driving that thing to work. But those lessons that I really gained from that simple statement of don't getting rich and good looking meant don't broadcast your wealth,
Yeah.
don't broadcast your riches. And if you think you're good looking, which means you really think you're above everyone else, you're not going to draw people in. So it was a simple lesson and it was transformative, quite candidly, not just for me professionally, but also personally. Because the man that I was with my kids, and today I've got some great stories. One I love to tell is several years ago, I had the privilege to buy a private aircraft, and I took a flight, kind of a celebration flight on this aircraft, and I invited some buddies of mine to go along with me, and we took a selfie on the plane, and I posted it like a long time ago back in the day on Facebook, and my oldest son, he immediately like called me and he said, "Dad, what is that picture you just put on social media?" And I'm like, "Well, I mean, it's a picture of me and my plane and with my friends." And, you know, and he's like, "Dad, that's just not cool."